we have had some regular sessions with parents just to kind of keep them abreast as to what is happening with our reopening plan. Obviously for us, safety, the health and safety of our students, of our staff, or of our families are at the core of everything that we're planning to do in the fall and that we're actually doing now. And so for those who have been following, we began this process listening to our parents, listening to our teachers, having sessions with our unions and every stakeholder, community members, community organizations, our faith-based partners. And so we have certainly developed this plan based on the state's guidance, based on recommendations from the CDC. We are working very closely with our local health partner, which is the City of Detroit Health Department. And so we feel very good and confident about what we are rolling out for our families come this fall. So I'm going to hit some highlights because I think that's what people want to know most. So one, you will be getting a survey in the next several days that will give you an opportunity to decide if you want to have either face-to-face instruction for your children or if you plan to choose the online learning option. You will also have an opportunity to change your mind several times between now and probably what will be mid to late August before we finalize how children will be positioned based on what their parents choose for them for the fall. And that just gives us as a district time to plan and make sure that we're able to accommodate what our families are choosing for their children. So just to really at a high level for in terms of understanding what your choices are. So for K-8, you have the choice of face-to-face or online. There is some discussion for a very large K-8 schools to potentially have some AB schedules, which right now only applies to our high schools. Right now it's just face-to-face or online for K-8. For our high schools, we are going to facilitate an AB schedule. So for instance, if your high schooler goes to school Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, they will probably do their online learning Tuesday and Thursday, or if they go in person Tuesday and Thursday, we'll do their face-to-face Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So those are the options now. Another piece that we're working on, we have educators from every grade band for our Montessori schools to actually put together an online offering so that we can offer the same thing for our Montessori parents, either face-to-face or online learning. So again, our plan continues to evolve in terms of what we're offering families based on what they are telling us they want. Also based on what guidance we get from our partners in developing this plan from the state, from our local health department. Some of the other things that have come up the last several days in talking with parents is how are we managing our students? How are we implementing social distancing and those kinds of things? All of our buildings, we will have customized school by school plans based on what their capacities are now. And when you overlay social distancing, what that capacity looks like then. So we may have some limitations on enrollment at various schools based on their new capacities in the context of social distancing. Another question that I've gotten often from parents is that our children aren't wired to just sit in a seat all day. I think another thing that parents want to know is that there will be breaks that will happen often because we understand that children aren't just going to sit still all day. So there'll be regular breaks, more frequent breaks over and beyond their lunch period and recess and those kinds of things. And we see that playing out now, even in summer school, where we have teachers who do dismiss children in small groups and they are socially spaced in the hall where they can do jumping jacks if they want. That might be an extreme, but they can stretch and they can get their energy out, is what I called it for my kids. When they were little, get your energy out. Well, my 11-year-old still gets her energy out daily. So there are concessions, and we know that, especially for our K-5, that will be somewhat disruptive, but we just encourage the frequent breaks as teachers will move, not students, in order to protect our students and also our staff. Those are some of the high-level things that I can share today in terms of what the district is thinking. We have a regular way for you to give feedback within our plan. You can go to Detroit K-12 .org/reopening. And you can regularly share feedback, thoughts, concerns, as we continue to plan and move forward. But I will pause there, just so that we can get at if there are specific questions from our parent community that I know is represented here, that we can address.
Why did some schools open during the summer if there wasn't enough PPE? Will this be fixed in the fall?
Yeah, to my knowledge, we don't have schools that don't have enough PPE. And we expect to fully supply those resources to our staff and students in the fall. So it's not a burden that will fall onto our parents, but we have ample PPE supplies. One of the things that has to happen in the fall is, and that has been instituted now as all of our central staff have come back to work, is we have temperature checkers installed in many of our buildings now. Will be all of our buildings come fall engagement, where before you can enter the building, your temperature is checked. We have ample supplies of masks and hand sanitizers. We have instituted hand washing stations in high or frequently used areas. And so, you know, I'm not sure where that came from, if there's a specific school or issue. I would just offer my email, sharlonda.buckman@detroitk12.org, if you are interested in talking further. But, you know, when we opened for summer school for our students, we were fully prepared with those items for our students and our staff.
Thank you, Sharlonda. And I want to encourage whoever did ask that question to please reach out to Sharlonda if it is a school and they have firsthand knowledge of that, to please share that with her so that she can take that back to the district. There's one more question that's specifically for DPSCD. Thanks, Cindy. Given the judge's ruling, how is DPSCD going to ensure that all children in summer school will be tested before returning to summer school? Is this going to occur for face-to-face classes in the fall?
So that's a good question. And one, we are going to comply because it is a judgment that, you know, obviously we're going to comply with it. And so we have partnered with our local health department. Testing is happening now. We began some yesterday in terms of making sure that parents were informed that they could give their consent, and the health department is administering those tests, which we get the results within 30 minutes. That said, I will say at some point, for parents who are listening, this has to be the choice of parents. The district has not been opposed to testing our children, but it is about having a public conversation, such as we did with water and other issues around facilities that we have had in the past in this district. We've had a very public conversation, engaging our stakeholders, engaging our parents, and jointly deciding what we do for our children. It doesn't feel good that we have a standard set for Detroit children and not set for all children. But because we don't want this to be an impediment for our students and our parents who are choosing face-to-face, that testing is happening now. It'll continue to happen. You know, again, just to support our parents and to follow the law, if you will. It is not clear whether or not that will be something that is imposed on Detroit-only students in the fall. I would submit that that is an ongoing conversation, and so we don't have a definitive on that yet.
We know that prior to COVID, DPSCD and other schools, other districts were struggling to have soap and toilet paper in bathrooms, and parents were providing tissues and Clorox wipes and things like that. Now, post-COVID, how has the district addressed that? Because these are obviously like things that now we have to have.
Well, I would also say pre-COVID, I mean, we know that there are sometimes issues here and there. We instituted before COVID a reporting number so that our students, our staff, and families could report if there were issues. And so that has been going on for a while, Christine. It's not something new. We're very conscious of making sure our schools have the supplies that they need, and there's no reason why they shouldn't, quite honestly. And that's been working well. We do get reports if schools are running low, if there's an issue. And so I would say we put in a mechanism to actually monitor that. And that was long before COVID. So I just want to make sure that piece is clear. The second piece, and I'm actually wanting to post that, I'll post it for you shortly, is we do believe in accountability. Through this process, we want to make sure that we don't just talk about the things that are being offered, but that they are consistently practiced, because it is about health and safety. And so there will be monitoring of that by different individuals. And we also have a reporting number for that, which I will share. It is 313-578-7018. That number will just continue into the fall. And so if you are at a school and you see that there's an issue or something's not happening consistently, you can use that number to report it, and within 24 hours you will get a response. So we are not only in compliance with the state expectations, we are not only instituting all of the practices around reopening, we are also putting in accountability mechanisms so that people have a way. We want to be accountable and to hold us accountable if those things aren't happening.
What has been the feedback from the parents whose children are in summer school? Has it been positive? And then is the district administering, this says weekly surveys, but is there some cadence for surveys?
Yeah, I think the feedback we've gotten so far has been highly positive. I think one of the things that I've heard specifically from parents is, one, they needed their kids to be safe because they had to work. Two, there were many children who wanted to go back to school. So they had conversations and made that decision together as a family. As mom was saying, then she had to say, that means you have to wear your mask and all these other kinds of things. So people are making the decision and having discussions and now experiencing school right now. Another piece of feedback that I got was just watching their children learn the health and safety practices that we have in place in terms of social distancing and wearing your mask and the frequent hand washing, and then coming home and continuing to practice that and emulating that for others. And so we've seen some very positive effects of doing what schools have traditionally done. They've been safe havens for children, especially for our parents who are working multiple jobs and have multiple responsibilities in their families. And children do emulate what they see and practice at home. At school. Well, it works both ways, right? They've seen, as I was going to say, because it does work both ways. They have seen that the impact of that fold over into their homes as well. And that's been a very positive feedback that we've gotten.
From talking to many of the charter school leaders, most schools are in response to parent feedback, which most schools have been hosting parent town halls throughout the summer, and we'll continue to do that through August in order to sort of continue to get the feedback from families and say real time. Most schools are offering an option to parents, depending on what their comfort level is. And like Sharlonda said, we also recognize that parents may change their minds, and we welcome that. And when I asked, schools, okay, so if a parent chooses, say, a virtual option, is that a choice for the whole school year? Is that a choice for a period of time? Most of the schools have said that the choices that their parents are making, they're committing for a marking period. So it could be a quarter, could be a trimester, something along those lines. And so my suggestion is, as parents, if you talk to your school, find out how they are managing these kinds of things so that you have the most up-to-date information for you. The other thing that's happening is a lot of collaboration. Charter schools are each independent bodies governed by independent boards. So on the one hand, it's, each one's independent. On the other, that means that we have the benefit of a tremendous amount of information and resources in the form of perspective. And so as we think about all the different charter school board members and all the different schools sort of working on plans, one of the things that we've done as a charter community is find ways to come together so that we can share some of what we're doing. And that way it's, if somebody has a good idea in one school, we want to make sure that it's shared with all schools so that everybody can take advantage of that collective think. And that's not just in the city of Detroit, that's throughout the state. So our team is hosting meetings with school leaders and others from charters across the state to sort of start to get ideas of how are folks managing this. Understanding that the regional piece of it is very important because obviously we are tied to the regional phases of the Safe Start. And there's also regional, potentially differences between regional preferences from parents. But we want to make sure that every idea, is shared so that we can all have the benefit of knowing, having a large variety of tools in our toolbox, if you will. And the last thing is, we recognize, and this, for parents, that this is really hard. I mentioned last week, I'm the parent of a rising kindergartner. And so every day I feel like I have new information. And, even as somebody who's so deeply involved with this work, I honestly, sometimes I change my mind on a daily basis about what I think I want my child to do. And it's not because I don't think the school can keep her safe. It's just because as a parent, that emotion kicks in. And I just want to remind parents that that's very understandable, and that whatever choice you make for your family and your child is the right choice. Please don't feel judged. Please don't feel, like, hey, I'm not doing right by my kid if I choose one or the other. At the end of the day, we all recognize that we all want to do what's best for our kids. And that involves us doing our own soul searching and making that choice. And just know that all of our schools, regardless of governance model, are here to support you in doing that.
What is the expectation for PPE, specifically masks, for children that don't come to school with them? Is it a mask every day, or is it limited? So what is the expectation of schools giving PPE, specifically masks?
Again, it's going to be a question that you'd want to ask your school specifically, but the guidelines state that it must be a new mask every day. And if it's a reusable mask, that it is washed every day. So my understanding is that schools are working with parent bodies to figure out what the school needs to provide and what parents are able to provide. But at the end of the day, much like anything else, if it's part of the guidelines. So we have to make sure that students have what they need to succeed in school.
Thank you. And then Sharlonda, what is DPS's? Go ahead.
Yeah, the expectation is that our kids will have masks, a supply of masks for the week, and there will be additional masks on site, because we know children lose their masks. They balled it up, they threw it away, they don't know what happened to it. But we are planning for them to have a supply for the week each week. So again, all of the plans that I described are evolving, which is why we're doing regular updates each week. But on that specific issue, we're planning for that supply.
You can find more at onedetroitpbs.org, or subscribe to our social media channels and sign up for our One Detroit newsletter.